Maybe.
Testing 1, 2.
All right, it is now 9:30, so good morning, everybody. First of all, if we have any declarations of interest, seeing as there's none. Confirmation of the minutes, April 28, 2014. Carried. Thank you. Just before we begin today's presentations, I just have a quick update. Recently, we've had the MISA conference, the Municipal Information Systems Association conference here, held in Ottawa. I got to attend several of the events, and by all accounts, it was extremely successful. And for people that don't know what MISA is, it's basically a lot of IT professionals and propeller heads like ourselves getting together in Ottawa and discussing best practices. So with almost 600 delegates, the theme of this year's conference was transforming the client experience. And I'll tell you, our Deputy City Manager, Steve Kanalakis, gave a really wonderful speech on how we're making such wonderful changes here within our city and shared that with other cities as well. It's something that was a good experience, and hopefully it's going to help other municipalities advance their schedules as well. And at the same time, during the conference, they also raised over $11,000 for CHIO during their conference. So that was another good news story out of that as well. And just a quick follow-up on Wi-Fi. 13 of the 25 locations have now been installed. I'm getting very good feedback from people. There's another 11 scheduled by mid-July, and we'll keep on top of that. But I'm getting great feedback and look forward to the completion of that project. So on that, today we have a few quick presentations. The first one is going to be, we'll get the creative maker spaces. You're up, guys. Sorry, no, I haven't. I want to get over.
Good morning. I am Anna Basile. I'm the Manager of Planning and Board Support for the Ottawa Public Library, and with me today is Danielle McDonald, our CEO. And we're here to talk about Imagine Space. That's the Ottawa Public Library's makerspace. You may recall that in the fall, my colleague Craig Ginther and I were here, and we delivered a presentation on technology and marketing. One of the projects we spoke about was the makerspace. This project has now come to fruition. It is open, and I'd like to give you a bit of an update on where we stand with this project today. So first off, what is a makerspace? A makerspace is any space where people can get together to use technology in order to make creative projects. It is essentially a hub of creation and collaboration. And makerspaces are typically within the following areas. So fabrication, such as 3D printers and laser cutters, electronics and robotics. Could be within the area of digital making, so video, audio, photo editing, coding and programming, but also arts and crafts or metal and woodworking, some of the more basics that you don't necessarily think. But when you think of communities, I myself am a crafter, and scrapbooking, right? And we come together as communities and we do these sorts of things. In 2013, the Ottawa Public Library conducted a crowdsourcing campaign with our customers. We wanted to gather their thoughts on the library of the future. And one of the key themes was the idea that libraries should be places for creation and collaboration. And we know that where learning used to be about consumption, it has now become much more. It's really about creating together. It's about that tactile method to learning. And at the library, we have embraced this in an effort to both advance learning in our community, but also to bridge the technology divide. I will say that the Imagine Space project was included in the 2014 Business Technology Plan, which was approved by the ITSC, as well as Council in November of 2013. So a little bit about our space. So the Imagine Space is a collaboration between the Ottawa Public Library and the United States Embassy. It is part of their American Corners program. It's a U.S. Department of State-sponsored initiative, which was inaugurated worldwide in about year 2000. There are approximately 850 American spaces in more than 169 countries worldwide, and they receive more than 15 million visitors each year. Corners are essentially spaces in local institutions, such as libraries, that the U.S. government helps to support. They offer information for the U.S. or tools and technologies and informative and engaging programs devoted to bilateral collaboration. The embassy has provided funding for equipment, and the library provided funding for space and staffing. I also wanted to mention that City ITS also provided us with funding for some of the equipment that we have in that space, and we were very pleased that they were able to come on board with that. So what do we have in the space? We have 3D printers, laser cutters, a video green screen, but we also have some digital making, and I'll speak to this a little bit more. It opened in April of this year, April 23rd to be exact, and the space itself is open for 42 hours per week, and we have between 1 and 2 employees staffing that space for those hours. In case you haven't been there, it is located at our Nepean Centrepoint branch, was at Ben Franklin Place, and it's approximately 420 square feet inside that library. Why did we do this? As I mentioned earlier, really it was a response to customer demand and the changing landscape of library services. It was so that we can encourage new forms of literacy in order to foster science, technology, engineering, and mathematics learning in our community, and also to improve the dialogue and understanding between the United States and Canada. So this is now where we get to the fun stuff. What do we have in the space? We have 2 Projet 1500 3D printers. We have an Epilogue Mini 24 laser cutter. We have video, photo, audio editing on Macs. We have video and photo cameras that can be rented out or borrowed, as well as peripherals. We have a dry erase whiteboard and projector. And we also have small electronics, such as Arduino, and other pieces as customer demand dictates. The space is the first public space in Ottawa, but a library card is required. So while you can walk in there and take a look around and learn information, in order to use the equipment, you do require a library card. In order to use a laser cutter and 3D printers, we have put together a certification program, and customers are required to sign an agreement, essentially a waiver of liability. In addition, customers agree to follow our code of conduct and to work responsibly. They agree not to infringe on copyright or intellectual property rights or to create weapons. And they also agree to waive liability and accept responsibility for injury and damage to equipment. In terms of our borrowing rules, our borrowing rules are consistent across the board. So where you can come into one of our libraries and use our public computers or use a Chromebook for 2 hours, it's the same for our makerspace. You can come in and you can book our Mac computers for 2 hours. We have employed a cost recovery approach for consumables. So the 3D printer, for example, uses a liquid resin, and we do charge by gram in order to recover the cost of those. There are age limits for some equipment, most notably the 3D printers and the laser cutter. Children 12 and under are able to use them with a parent in attendance. Anyone between the ages of 13 and 17 are able to use them if they take a certification course with their parents, and then the parent signs a waiver to authorize them to use it on their own. In addition, in the space, we offer a variety of programming and events. The most popular one has been our certification courses for those 2 pieces of equipment, as well as group and school tours. So this is by far the most impressive part of this, I think. We opened on April 23rd, and between April 23rd and May 23rd, here are some of the statistics that demonstrate the success of the space. We have had 1,369 visitors into that tiny 420 square foot space. We have had 23 requests for the 3D design PCs, 29 for the laser cutter, and 7 for the Mac Pro video editing stations. We have answered 77 specific emails to that space. That does not include booking equipment. We have certified 107 customers on the 3D printer and the laser cutter, and we have offered 19 programs. Those 19 programs saw more than 600 participants. We're very excited about that because they are coming back and they're telling others. But before I go on, what I'd like to say is that Success isn't just in numbers, so I'm going to share with you a bit of observations and customer profiles. Our single laser cutter is constantly booked, and instead of arguing over time limits, customers often team up with complete strangers to collaborate on projects. We have small communities and groups almost immediately spring up, especially around Arduino and our small robotics courses. People often visit the space not to use the equipment, but to socialize and talk about their project ideas with like-minded individuals. And in terms of our customer profiles, our oldest customer is a gentleman who was a ship's engineer in World War II. He has spent his life milling engine parts. Our younger customers start coming in at around ages 3 and 4, and they're fascinated with anything that comes out of the 3D printer, but they also love the electronics. Afternoons typically see retirement-age people, students, young parents on maternity leave and vacation, or people with flexible work schedules, while our evenings obviously see the after-work and the dinner crowd. We tend to see more males than females, except in our kids' programs. Elementary school girls show up in equal numbers as elementary boys. And while teens have been a hard target for public libraries to hit, we do see a fair number. They tend to show up in groups, often belonging to school clubs, or come to work on school projects, but they're there. And with that, I would like to say if you have not yet been out to Nepean Centrepoint branch to see our makerspace, I do encourage you to come out, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for that presentation. I'm getting a lot of calls, actually, and emails to my office about the 3D printers, so I feel a little more educated now. I can actually answer those questions. I did notice on the website, I guess the certification course is about 60 minutes long, and currently I see August 28th is the first available, I guess, certification course. So I'd have to assume it's pretty popular at this point, and there's a lot of people in those certification programs?
We actually started with 2 certification courses per week. We've had to triple those. We actually can't keep up with the demand.
Wow.
And so that's why right now you're looking at the earliest date as being August. I will say that we have a number of people who just see that there is a course being offered and they show up. And we're looking at ways to try and increase our availability. The Nepean Centrepoint branch is open 63 hours a week. The makerspace itself is only open 42, and we'll be conducting an assessment in September to see if we're able to expand that.
Sounds like the library is really thinking of ways to reinvent themselves here, so that's good news. Any questions? Great. Well, thank you very much for coming out and making that presentation today.
Thank you. Have a great day.
So can we receive that presentation? Thank you. Next up, we have our Service Ottawa program update, and Donna Gray will be joining us.
Thank you very much for your patience. We're just setting up the demo at the same time we're doing the presentation. So thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity to present this morning. What we'd like to present quickly is just a status update of where we finished in terms of our 2013 plan, talk about the 2014 plan, what we've accomplished to date, and provide a status update of what we will be completing within 2014, and to provide you two opportunities to see two products that we'll be releasing at the end of the second quarter of this year that we had been and had shown you earlier in the year. So we're happy to show you today in the development environment what that will look like for residents as we release the My Service Ottawa account and In My Neighborhood. So in terms of status from October to December, so just to highlight, by the end of year in 2013, we will continue to complete a number of enhancements to our website, to continue to shift people to our online channel, and to create the website as a single source of information for residents accessing information in the City of Ottawa. We've continued to update our phone technology, bringing in revenue as a call center, and working to look at how can we effectively use our 311 and revenue call centers as in addition to our community and social services to deliver more enhanced services on the phone to our residents. And we've continued to move forward on our mobility program, putting mobile devices into the hands of both our field workers and our knowledge worker staff. From January to June this year, as part of the 2014 program that was approved in the fall, we have completed the online payment for Ontario Works and social housing overpayments. We've completed an entire review of our 311 interactive voice response menu service and looking at how we would enhance that as we move forward. We've continued to put online services online in our Service Ottawa online channel, so blue, black, and green bin coupons. Tree Health, we've improved our e-forms and our Clean the Capital and continue to do our mobile devices. So you can see from the status report, we've been very busy from January to June, continuing to do those enhancements to the web and do our mobile devices. In addition, we've expanded services to Walter Baker, and I'll speak about that. And we're about to launch and on schedule for this quarter to release the My Service Ottawa account and the In My Neighborhood interactive map, and the ability to pay city accounts receivable or those blue invoices online in the first quarter of Q2. So again, we've had a very busy and productive first and second quarter of this year, continuing our Service Ottawa strategy. But if I was speaking in detail a bit about what does that mean for residents in terms of what we've done in the first quarter and the last quarter, we really have launched in February and we will and have in June a number of service requests, and we've really taken those top service requests that are important to residents, put them on our online channel, and are now, those service requests are going directly to the back-end departments to prioritize an action without an intervention of 311. And you'll see in the plan we have two more releases where we'll be adding more online services to ottawa.ca later this year. The next piece of effort that we've been working very heavily on is bylaw calls and making sure that the information that's collected, the policies, the rules, what the service standards are, how we're responding those from front end to back end with our bylaw partners. Both our Client Service Center and our bylaw partners have been working closely to complete those, which includes more knowledge base and better information to make sure that those calls get quicker to the back-end departments for processing. And you can see we've done a number of those reviews in the first part until March, and by the end of 2014 we'll have finished pretty well all of the bylaw services classifications of calls from the front end to the back end. Clean the Capital was an interactive map that we've created and an efficient way for participants to register for that service online. Again, trying to shift people from a manual process to an online service process. And we have 977 projects and just under 60,000 participants in that program now registering and using that interactive program. The Youth, which we've talked about in previous meetings, was launched, and we're now seeing very quickly in the launch about 8,000 visits so far to that youth portal. And the youth portal was really, again, testing the concept of designing a website for the needs of a particular segment to try and increase their interaction with the city in a way that makes sense to those youth. And we're happy to say that the youth portal is getting much positive feedback from the youth in terms of the use of that website, although we continue to improve content and improve that website as we move forward. And then in May 5th, we launched Expanded City Services, again working with our partners in Parks and Recreation Services to expand services to the Walter Baker Centre. And we're excited to announce that they will be collecting tax payments in the Walter Baker area during this tax due date. And that continues to look at how do we streamline our counter services with our Parks and Rec partners that will form the basis of a model moving forward. In addition, really, and you'll see in My Neighborhood, we've already launched in May information about community and social services, their client data, demographic information, and information about their supports, their daycare centers, employment services, food bank, retirement homes, etc., on a geographically placed map. And you'll see in the demo that we're doing today, that information is already there in our mapping, but it will also now be present in the In My Neighborhood tool so people can see where those facilities are in their particular neighborhood as well. So what does this mean? We're seeing increasing web satisfaction improving monthly. We track that through an intercept survey that's completed by our residents on the website. And in Q3 2013, we were registering 3.1 out of 5 satisfaction. In the first quarter of 2014, we're at 3.6 out of 5. So we're happy to be tracking that and believe that many of the enhancements we're doing are providing improved search results and improved display of information for residents. As well, we continue to show that the services that we're putting on the web are increasing our ability to offload service requests to the online channel. 20% of service requests as of April 2014, as compared to 12% in 2013. So we're showing that our service requests with the ones that we're putting on are continuing to improve. And our web transactions are also increasing. So overall, when we look at all transactions, we have a little over 500,000 a month in 2014. And those include unique visits to our website. In terms of improving our search results, so Ottawa.ca, with the improvements we've been making, we're at 95% success for the top searches in 2013 as the first quarter. And what that means is 95% of the time, or 4.75 out of 5 times, the search results in the top 5 are meeting the needs of a resident in terms of the particular item that they're searching for. And while we're lowering the number of overall content pages on the website, we've reduced by about 15,000, our web visitation is increasing. And this year we'll be trending to a little over 9 million visitors in 2014 to our website. Again, showing that it is a significant place for traffic of our residents for information and services for the city. The Business Ambassador Program, which we launched, our 1-year anniversary was May 21st. We're happy to say that 175 new residents in the last year have been helped through this program, providing one single point of access to new entrepreneurs starting a restaurant. And 36 of those particular businesses have opened and been part of this program. And when we look at the stats of that program, we're looking at that the business information officer that supports that restaurant is actually reducing the number of inspections that somebody has to go through by helping the client to prepare and to consolidate those visits, and that applicants who use the Business Ambassador service are receiving their building their business license 2 times faster than they would have if they had not used the service. We believe that this early notification process allows us to expedite inspections and allows that resident to get, or that entrepreneur to get to the right city service at the right time. We're excited as well to announce that as a result of this initiative and understanding the needs of businesses in our community, that we have now produced a business startup guide in 3 specific languages in our community, Arabic, Cantonese, and Spanish, that is available on the website for those particular groups wanting to start a business. So what's next? What can we expect for 2014? So from July to December 2014, attached is the list of our schedule of our deliverables that were approved in the fall and when we plan to release them. So you can see our Spotlight calendar, which is events and in the community, which is a partnership with the City of Ottawa and Gatineau, will be on schedule to be released in the third quarter of this year. Our Ottawa.ca unified search, so we're working with our partner boards, libraries, and OC Transpo to improve our ability to do searches across multiple websites, which again will improve our search ability. Open 511 is the ability to look at traffic information online, which will be supporting our Ottawa on the Move strategy. We're continuing the work that we, as I mentioned earlier, about bylaw. We'll be upgrading our Drupal, which has increased capacity for us to do new development on the web. And we will be evaluating our older adult segment, which we looked at volunteers and Join Ottawa to look at how can we improve, what lessons have we learned and what can we move into future enhancements on the web for older adults. And we will be adding pictures to service requests using mobile devices by mobile web forms, which should come at the end of the year. Our property change of address, the pilot, is on schedule for the end of the year. View and print water and tax bills, again, are on schedule for the end of the year. And mobile devices, we continue to deploy those until the end of the year. And continuing to get feedback on Ottawa.ca and have a plan of enhancements based on that feedback to improve Ottawa.ca. And the knowledge base being deployed is starting to get that information around city services out to workers in the field, is on schedule for the last quarter of 2014. We have two areas where we're still negotiating and reviewing the schedule in terms of the deployment. We have Public Works traffic operations, which is dependent on mobile devices and the ability to have those mobile devices delivered and deployed. That we're currently looking at the schedule and believe that that might move into Q1 of 2015. And the enterprise permits and licenses, which is currently under review, we have three dependencies in that project. One is with our provincial partners for the development of the business number and the information. We've been delayed due to the election, so we've been on a holding pattern. We'll resume those conversations with our provincial partners to see the impact of that schedule moving forward. And we're currently in discussion with our vendor who has been having increased capacity issues about their ability to run multiple concurrent projects. So we're right now working with them to see what are the impact of that schedule of our permits and license deployments this year. So that really highlights what's been accomplished in the first and second quarter and what you can expect from now until the end of the year. What we'd like to do now is to preview for you in the development environment two products that we'll be releasing at the end of the second quarter, the My Service Ottawa and the In My Neighborhood. So I'm going to hand it over to Jeff Bumstead to go through the tool.
Thank you, Donna. The first area we'll touch on is My Service Ottawa. I think we've had some discussions in the past about the My Service Ottawa account. My Service Ottawa is really a philosophy and a new approach for the city to engage more directly with the residents, to allow them to interact directly with the city, to complete transactions or get information tailored to how they really want to use it. So it is a platform. What we're seeing today is really the tip of the iceberg here. There's a lot of effort and technology behind the scenes to manage the security, manage what's happening, and to make sure that the client experience that we present is as simple as possible. So this is the first release we're looking at, and we'll be building on this for the future. We'll also be previewing In My Neighborhood, which I won't touch on this slide because it's more fun to look at it live. So In My Neighborhood is a collection of capabilities that really, I don't know if you recall, Lyman was here talking a few meetings ago about the rework of the GIS spatial system at the City of Ottawa. That really laid the foundation for us to build out this kind of a technology here. So we're working with our ITS partners to deploy and build out this technology. So without further ado, I will go into the demo. So what you're seeing here, this is in our development environment. This is the actual registration screen. Because of some limitations of the setup we have in the room today, I can't actually register for an account because part of the registration process is providing a small set of information, my email address and my password, and then an email is sent to that email address. And I must have access to that email address. I click a link in that email, and that takes me back into the Ottawa.ca, my Service Ottawa account, where I provide my password, and that enables my account. So until I create that connection, my account isn't created. So what I will do is I will actually go ahead and just log on to an account that I've already created. So when I log into the account, it takes me to what we think of as the home screen. This is a collection of services, again, tailored to myself. When I created my account, I provided a set of information, which included my name, my address, any other information I want to provide. So the structure that we've built is to take the information that is provided by the individual and reuse that. So I need to provide that information once. Wherever we can apply that information, such as the address, phone number, we will use that information so that I don't need to enter it again. This allows us to, in the future, as we build out capabilities such as viewing my water bill or my tax bill, if I've already provided email and contact information, I don't need to provide that again. I just need to provide incremental information. So back to the home screen here, you see we've created a kind of a collection of what we refer to as widgets or capabilities for the user when they're logged in. First of all, we have our ever-present Service Ottawa, the top list of services if I do want to view or create a new SR. What I see over here under the service request window is this is a listing of service requests that I have open with the system based on the email account I entered. So if I've created any service requests with under my email account that I've used to create this account, I get that listing of those here. In this case, I only have one. We show the top 5 on this screen, and if I want to view all my history, I can go to this screen and I'll see my complete history. In this case, I only have one. It's been closed. And if I want to view the detail of that service request, I can click this link and I see the detail of what that request was and the fact that it's been closed. So again, this is just creating that tighter connection with the citizen about what their interactions are with the city so they have that history. You'll see down below we have a garbage and recycling window. Again, because I've already provided my address, the system knows where I live. Connection through our online garbage calendar is already established, and I just see here directly what my address is, what my next collection date is, and what's happening. So that information is right there available to me. Again, if I want to view all, I can go right into the calendar to see the whole view, but we've captured the pertinent information for the next collection right on that screen. Now, below here, you'll see my neighborhood, which we've talked about as well. So I'll just click on that window. Again, the system knows my address. It knows where I live, so it points me right to my neighborhood. So this map takes me to my neighborhood, points out where my address is, and you'll see in these windows underneath, there's a collection of really information pertinent to my location and my neighborhood. I see, of course, my councillor being Councillor Wilkinson, since I'm in Canada North. I see recreation facilities, which are close by to my home. I see parks, again, libraries. Pardon? I see library, arts and culture centers, spotlight events, civic administration. So there's a whole series of data sets that we've made available through the GIS system to provide this information. If I'm interested in a specific area, if I want to go look at parks, again, if I'm interested in one, I click on it, it takes me right to where that park is and gives me information about that park. If I want to find that park, I simply click on the address symbol, and that gives me directions of how to get to my home to that particular location. And that set of information applies to all of the information we have displayed here. You simply pick the one you're interested in, and it'll give you an indication of how to get there. We're also displaying as much information as we have available. If there's a pool in the park, if it's a on-leash, off-leash park, if there's a play structure. So we're building on all the information that we have in our systems to display that information here. We've connected into Spotlight events as they exist today. So if I'm interested in the Canada Day picnic, you'll see it takes me to this location, gives me a summary of that, and if there's a website available or any additional information on ottawa.ca, we provide that link so that I can go directly in and see what's happening at that particular event. So the goal here is really based on where I live, what my neighborhood is, to give the broad range of areas of interest, be they city facilities or related events, other facilities such as schools and hospitals, which while they aren't directly controlled by the city, we have access to those data sets through partnerships with those organizations, and we're displaying that information here. You'll see also we're asking for feedback. So as part of any of this information that we provide, if anybody wants to provide feedback, any information to us, we're encouraging people to get engaged in the tool, add information. If there's information that people believe is either incorrect or could be more accurate, to provide that information to us, and we'll continue to improve the large set of data as we go forward. So that's kind of the In My Neighborhood tool. I go back to my Service Ottawa link, and we have about 33 data sets there. We'll be continuing to expand the amount of data available on that and improving that information as we go forward. As I move down the home page here, you'll see I've got some additional information that we felt would be of use and value to people. We provide the online magazine, so this is the kind of the top 5 current stories on online magazine. We provide the ability to connect to Twitter feeds, which I believe, because of the limitations of the system, I don't have them showing up here, but those Twitter feeds would show up. So that's kind of the core home screen around Ottawa.ca. You'll see we've got a navigation menu on the left-hand side here as well, where I can expand out to see various services. So I see my garbage and recycling, which we've talked about, permits and licenses, pay water bill, pay property tax, pay parking ticket. Right now, these specific services or links connect up to the existing services that's already in place. As time goes by, for instance, as we roll on to water and bills and property tax bills, those services will be replaced here, so it'll take you directly into those new services as we bring them online. For now, we've collected together only a set of the most commonly used services that people want to access when they're here. You'll see that I have Stay Connected bottom. This is just a way for people to stay connected with the city. So this is direct access to the various social media feeds, RSS feeds, and all the various e-subscriptions that you can subscribe to in the city, so that I can see what subscriptions are available to me. If I want to receive emails on events, that I can get those directly to me. So again, this is, again, an effort to make it easy for people to stay connected and engaged with the city. Speaking of staying engaged, feedback is very important to us on a tool like this, because we do want, to a certain extent, to let the citizens kind of direct us in the types of data, the types of services we bring online. So we've got fairly extensive feedback mechanisms. We recently redid a lot of the feedback mechanisms on Ottawa.ca, and we've tightened up the feedback to allow people to either provide ideas on how a web page could be improved, or to provide additional thoughts on services that we could establish and add to the site over time. So that's a quick view of what the My Service Ottawa account looks like in its first iteration. As I said, this is really the first step is laying a fairly significant foundation for us to add incremental services and go forward. A lot of the effort that went into this one was laying that secure foundation, making sure we had the appropriate security assessments done to make sure information was secure, that we have that establish that trusted relationship with the citizens. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for that. I think this is going to be a big offering for us. Real quickly again, how is this going to roll out again? How are you going to be doing a small soft launch to a certain test group, certain group of people, and how do you determine who gets on that group?
So our plan is to do a soft launch of the My Service Ottawa with a bigger launch of In My Neighborhood, directing people to In My Neighborhood. What we'd like to do is have people on the website, as they're looking on the website, see that it's new and see people try it just initially so that we can test the whole system to see if it works, as well as the support. Because as people work on this online channel, we have to make sure that if they have trouble working this channel, they have a vehicle to support, and that really is the 311 agents. So we want to make sure that the 311 agents can also handle the volume of people as we move forward. So we're thinking of a very soft launch, and then in the first couple of weeks we'll test the functioning of it generally in the public, and then we'll do a broader launch once we feel that we've received good feedback around the functioning of it as we move forward.
Great. Thank you for that. Councillor Kadri.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much, Donna and Jeff, for the presentation. Just coming back to one comment that I would have, up until now we've been receiving our weekly or daily updates from 311 in terms of calls into the 311 operations by ward. Will there be something like that set up on this program where we could either go in ourselves once a quarter and look at the ward history coming back in terms of comments or issues that were raised in the ward like we are with 311 right now? Or is that a possibility at all?
So we can take that away, Councillor, in terms of this specific tool and what kind of analytics we can provide to you around what we're seeing in terms of feedback of that. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
And I don't mean to add work, especially when the project's just starting out, but I think that would be good information for the councillors to have in terms of what's happening in the ward, whether it's a pothole issue on one particular street or whatever that issue is. Because with 311 reports that we get on a daily basis, we can sort of put a picture on the ward as to what is happening. So it's just something for a takeaway for now. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you. Because I know the area that you're looking at, I was interested to find that for Canada Day they sent you through the Greenbelt to Nepean, and I didn't see Canada Day in Canada there. So is there something that we have to do to make sure that the community-run events, the major ones particularly, are going to be on the website? So is that part of the process that you're going to be following?
In fact, the information we display is based on current sets of data established in the system. So if an event is registered in Spotlight, we automatically track and display that event. So we aren't specifically reaching out to make sure that we're making sure that data is accurate, it's translated properly, but we aren't soliciting missing information or events like that. So that would be up to specific associations or groups to get that information supply. We are taking that information set that exists and mapping it.
So is that basically mostly just like the one that came up was a city facility? And
yes.
Is that what we've got? We don't have the others because there are, and they also were going right out of your neighborhood because I may not realize the Greenbelt is kind of a change. People stay mostly outside.
Yeah, the tool is structured so that it takes the top 10 items within a kilometer of your home, and then if there isn't anything, it will expand out to find events in that particular category for you.
But the closest one is not necessarily the most accessible one in some respects. Mm-hmm. So we may have to work on that. So there will be a way that groups could register their events with the city to get them into the website think some of the Canada Day ones usually are, because now that everybody goes through Event Central, they know when these things are happening.
So just in follow-up, so we are only dealing with those events that there is a department who is managing that event and that information for the city. So if it's registered and managed through the partnership with NCC and Gatineau, that information would be displayed. It is not a tool for basic community organizations to present their information unless there's a departmental person who's ensuring the accuracy of the information and the data going into the tool is accurate, at least for the starting launch of what we have right now, because we've done a fair amount of work making sure that it is city facilities and city programs that are first in the tool. But any expansion of that, we'd have to be working with that department to figure out how can we make sure those liaisons with the community organizations are established.
I think we have to start working, because like the Canada Day, the big activities outside of downtown are pretty well all community run, even though they're in the city facilities, parks. Like there's 30,000 go to the one in Canada at least, and it doesn't get into it. So there's some way we should be able to at least try to capture the major ones that are happening around the city. I think that would be very useful for a lot of people. Otherwise, they're going to all go to a little stone house for a picnic on Canada Day, because that's the only one you got on there.
I'm actually just going to hop in on this one because I know Councillor Shirelli also experienced similar issues with his New Year's Day events.
Same type of thing.
And the situation is, unfortunately, it's not related to IT. It's more about a policy that we have within the city when it comes to bilingualism, making sure that it's the correct information that is in there. And if you do follow up with that department, I'm quite sure that they would like to assist you to make sure that event is in there.
Yeah, it's not.
But unfortunately, it's not a technology-related issue. It's more of a policy issue.
Okay, well, I think we're going to have to look at that to some extent too, because community groups are not flush with money and things to do a lot of things that the city would do to make things more.
And they probably should work with their council.
All they really need to do is have their website link there. We'll talk about that later. But I think it's the next step. Obviously, I see what you're saying. When you start, you've got to start with what you have and you build on that. But on the other hand, I know people, and Canada Day is a good example. They say, where is the Canada Day in Canada? They want to know where it is. And if it's not, it's on the city's website, it becomes a help for them if they don't know how to find the regular website. And they usually phone me instead, which I'd rather they didn't.
Yeah. And you know what? It's just follow up. Maybe we can get somebody from Event Central.
Yeah, it is really interesting, and I think it's going to be a tremendous assistant to have. All the information on there is actually very useful, too. So,
thank you. Any further questions on the presentation received? Thank you very much for your time on that. I know you put a lot of work into this account feature, and it's really going to set us ahead of many other cities and municipalities out there. Great. So we're on to our final presentation, Housing Collaborative Initiative. And today we have... Hello, Mr. Arbuckle. Hello. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to introduce the project manager of Housing Collaborative Initiative for the whole Housing Collaborative Initiative, Tim Labanek. And thank you very much for inviting us to present today. I must say that following 3D printers, My Ottawa and My Neighborhood is a bit of a hard axe to follow, but we think this project demonstrates very much how working together and in partnership can reduce costs and improve our business practices. Just to give the committee a bit of a background, social housing was transferred to the municipalities in 2000. There was no information, provincial information or financial information system that was transferred with it. And Ottawa and all service managers Ottawa being the second largest service manager, had to develop these systems internally. So they were all developed in different ways. Ottawa developed a very comprehensive system that costs around $3 million or more to administer the 8 housing programs, 2,500 rent supplements, and which right now manages about $125 million in subsidy payments per year. Our current mayor, and when he was the Minister of Housing, started the long-term affordable housing strategy that really moved away from what was the Social Housing Reform Act and concentration just on social housing, but looking at the whole housing system. And from that was developed the Housing Services Act in 2011, which meant that we were looking at the whole housing system and responsible for ongoing administration of that. Because of that, we have had to add new programs into our system, and the current system is really not able to be modified. So a group in southwestern Ontario in 2011, I think, started working together to develop a system that that would address social housing needs and the housing needs. And Ottawa joined this consortium in 2013. So the opportunity for us was that Seamus was about 10 years old, or will be about 10 years old when this new system comes into being, and we also needed to upgrade our centralized waiting list system and develop new modules that were never developed within Seamus. So across the province, one of the opportunities is that there is no one system for the whole province, and by joining consortium, it means that we're developing a system that is, at least for those in the consortium, it will be a consistent system that will have shared data that will start to tell a picture about what the housing system really requires and needs. So in terms of who's participating in this consortium, Ottawa is the largest housing provider in it. We have 29% of the social housing stock of the consortium. Chatham is the smallest. It has 2%. But everybody has been working very hard together. This represents about 2/3 of all the social housing stock, excluding Toronto, in Ontario. So it will provide quite a good picture of what social housing and the housing needs across the province are. This new system that we're developing together will also support all our new programs, affordable housing programs. It will support our Ottawa rent supplement program and our housing allowance programs as well. I just want to mention that in terms of governance, that there's a governance committee that each municipality has one member who is a voting member. Greg Jackson, our senior coordinator for program support in social housing, is the designated person for that, and our alternative is Lisa Goodfellow, who is our senior program administrator. So what attracted us to Housing Collaborative Initiative? First of all, I had been hearing about it for a few years because of my involvement with the social housing network in Ontario. And more, we were understanding that our current system was needing to be replaced. We needed to have more flexibility, and we needed to be able to provide to have a system that was going to address all our needs, not just part of our needs. It was very important that we develop a new centralized waiting list software system, and that we needed to have a a system that also addressed new rent supplement programs. Through the Housing Services Act, the provincial government was looking at a new funding formula for rent supplements, and we needed to be able to adapt our new system to that. I think the opportunity also is that when we work together like this, we're sharing the risks and benefits of a system like this. We start to have, we are also needing to move towards a system that is accessible by residents anywhere. Right now, to get onto the centralized waiting list, you must attend in person the registry. We need to have a system that people will be able to apply online. We also need to have a system where the housing providers themselves can interact with the system and provide us electronically their data rather than it coming in a paper form, which we then have to translate into our own system. As I was saying, the housing providers will be able to provide and access information directly from the system, such as the annual information return, their subsidy calculations, etc. I think having common collection practices will be very important for us as a province. Again, kind of not just thinking of Ottawa, but thinking of the whole system and how we interact with the federal government when we're requesting funding or trying to explain our needs. And it's extremely important, I think, that we move to a system that is going to be easy for residents to apply and keep track of their housing choices. So for Ottawa, we had some clear requirements. We needed to have a centralized waiting list as part of this new system. We needed to have a very strong and rent supplement component that, with a built-in RGI, rent geared to income calculator. We needed to have a risk management tool that was envisioned in Seamus, but was never, we were never able to develop it. This will assist us, the city, to assess risk in real time. It's very important. We manage over $3 billion we administer and finance over $3 billion in assets, and with a $125 million budget in subsidies, it's very important that we understand every housing provider's situation and be able to mitigate risk before it becomes a problem. So I think it's always important to recognize that ultimately, with all these properties, the city actually is ultimately responsible for any project that goes the wrong way. And we don't want that to happen. So it's an important part of the new system that will be automated and will help us in real time. And again, we're always being asked for reports on everything. This will help to automate the system and reduce our and increase our efficiencies. So this has been very much a work of labor so far by all the service managers involved. And by doing so, we've been leveraging our own resources to come up with all the business case requirements for each of the modules. Each of the modules will outline how, so we've come up with information about how each module will function, what the fields are required, what validation rules, length, etc. are needed, how fields in various tables relate to each other, what business rules will drive these requirements, We have also built in a tremendous amount of flexibility into the requirements to allow us to have flexibility between service managers. Our rules in Ottawa might be different than those in Windsor, for instance, on the centralized waiting list. We may need to be able to turn on and turn off certain components of it. And we've also provided a detailed, as part of the RFP, a module description document. So there are 12 modules, and they all interact with each other. As I said, each of the consortium has worked to develop the business case requirements on each of those. The City of Ottawa joining in 2013, and with our requirements to ensure that we had a centralized waiting list as part of it and a rent supplement module, have been heavily involved in the detailed requirements of that. Many hours of people's time have been spent doing that. So some critical success factors for us. We want to make sure that this system can be used by any municipality, regardless of size and or data preferences. And we want to make sure that other municipalities can join if they choose to, and so that the system has to be designed for Chatham, that has 1,800 units, and the City of Ottawa with over 24,000 units that will be administered by this system. We want to make sure that the end users will have an opportunity, while it's been designed, developed, and used, to have an ongoing feedback mechanism to help us develop it further and to ensure that it's changing and improving to meet everyone's needs. So where are we right now? Well, phase one is completed, and I must say that the first bullet that talks about develop the governance model including consortium agreement, that was a major thing to get through. And not only the housing branch staffs in each area, but also all our lawyers, 8 lawyers around the table trying to agree was a challenge. But I do want to congratulate our lawyer, Jen Langley, who really, I think, spearheaded a lot of the work and getting all the other lawyers to work out a final agreement. It took several months to actually achieve that part of it. We're moving ahead now. The RFP was issued in April. The RFP closed June 4th. Right now, we have Greg and Lisa meeting with our IT and IT security today, working through some of the technical areas of the RFP evaluation. The Ottawa's will be, all the RFP evaluations by the individual service managers will be completed by the 18th. And then the group gets together next week, first of all for demonstrations from each of the proponents that have bid on this, and then for the final evaluation of the full, by all members of the consortium. And we're hoping by the end of that week to have picked a successful proponent and to be able to move forward by the end of June. Phase 3 will probably begin in September, and that will run through to 2016. It is a process that we expect will have the modules tested at different times and slowly coming out by sometime in 2016. I think, you know, this is Again, I think a good example of where we're using collective resources. We're doing something that is going to improve our system, that will take us forward over the next 10 years, but in a way that I think is going to be very cost effective. Much better than doing it on our own. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. And I know that, I was just ready to say, Councillor Wilkinson, Chair of Ottawa Community Housing, and our former chair is also here as well, probably have a lot of interest in this. So, Councillor Wilkinson.
I'm really glad to see this happening, but I'm just wondering, we've just done a whole IT changeover at Ottawa Community Housing. Is it going to be able to interact with this, or does that matter? I just was wondering how that would work.
Well, what Ottawa Community Housing has is a new software system for as a housing provider. This is a software system more from us as a service manager administering the funds across all 56 housing providers and affordable housing. So it has a different function, and yes, it will interact in terms of the data that will come from Ottawa Community Housing in terms of your annual information return, which is, a package like that, will come in electronically to us. Your subsidy calculations will come in electronically, so there'll be that sort of interface. So
they will not fight each other. They'll work together.
We're building a portal, as I understand it. I'll let him explain what that means. I understand what it does, and that's where the information will be downloaded and uploaded.
That would be very helpful. I think it would certainly speed up dealing with people, and getting people off the waiting list, I suspect, would be sped up as well.
Well, I think certainly
maybe
on the
those phone calls.
The centralized waiting list is a big one for us to ensure that there's interaction with the housing provider, with us as the service manager, and to ensure and the resident, to ensure people are getting housed quickly, and that we have an audit process that we can monitor that electronically, as well as the housing provider can pick up those electronically from the system.
And although they can put things on automatically online about income and things like that, you'll still have the physical check, because people are not always known to tell you everything when they
we still require documentation, and they would still have an opportunity to look at
and still have the annual, like I know in Ottawa Community House, they check their incomes every year.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think this is a big step forward. And I think it's nice to see that we're working with other municipalities. Yeah. Toronto stays out of it as usual, but they're so big that probably it may not work as well for them in any case.
We keep planting seeds. We're hoping that they too are having some financial challenges.
If they came in, it would share the costs a bit better with all the others. There's no question.
Some are sitting on. We have a number of proponents sitting on the fence, including the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, who has been approached to help fund this project, and we're hoping to have some answers in the next...
But they do have to get information that's generated from this, don't they?
Yeah, and our position is that if they want the information, perhaps they should be contributing to the cost of getting it. Yeah.
Well,
and they share that.
Well, I think if we can be of any help in pushing them for you, we'd be very glad to do that, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for that. Any other questions? Great. Thank you very much for that presentation. So on the presentation, is that received? Great. Thank you. Any notices of motion? Inquiries? Other business? And we'll have adjournment. Okay. And our next meeting... Our next meeting is September 15th. So enjoy your summer. Thank you.